After getting goal lead on Saturday against the Ottawa Senators, the Panthers waved the white flag on Sunday in Detroit.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, April 7th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Man12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. And if you're on the YouTube channel, make sure to press that like button. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on the show, even though right now it's a little bit of a low period, not only for the results on the ice for the Panthers, getting only 1 point out of 8 in their 4-game road trip, but just the fact that injuries continue to pile on for the Panthers. And now for them, getting 3 more call-ups to play in Detroit today. And for the Panthers, a shutout on the road in Ottawa after controlling play, getting 40 shots, and Anton Forsberg putting on a show for them. The Panthers go into Detroit, and looks from a distance, we saw with the transaction saying the Panthers waved the white flag on the regular season and are looking more towards health over going all in. And here to discuss that all on today's edition of the show, he is from the Dan LeBetard Show with Stugotz, Meadowlark Media, and one half of the hockey show, Roy Bellamy. Roy, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hello, Armando. I'm very happy to be here, despite the fact that only 1 point out of 8 in this road trip. Yeah, that's not a good way to go. But the Panthers are, well, and that's what happens when you don't have 8 of your usual guys in the lineup. So, yeah, I don't blame them for focusing on health because they absolutely need it. And once the guys come back, they'll be fully rested. So we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt. And to think that even for another game on Saturday with no Barkov and no Nico Sturm, there was a lot of the shifting when it came to the lines, the D pairs as well. Nate Schmidt went up to the top pair with Gustav Forsling. Mikkola went back with Seth Jones. And then you have a little bit of that mix up with Jesper Boquist going up with Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart there, who they didn't play in the second end of a back-to-back there. And then Mackie Samoskevich also getting a little bit of time on that Bennett line towards the end of the Ottawa game, and then really creating a good amount of the scoring chances in Detroit as well. But man, for at least the front end of a back-to-back, you think the Panthers really did a great job in just not allowing Ottawa to really push play and still found a way to get pucks in deep, get into the net front. It just, unfortunately for them, a costly turnover by Seth Jones that resulted in the back of their net, and then another one where Anton Lundell couldn't handle the puck, and then it ends up. But also that fourth line, Roy, I thought they were quite impressive. Nosek, who, in a little bit of a tough position after the trade for Nico Sturm, not in the lineup, but then when he's called upon, the Gadjevich-Greer line, and Nosek line, they were creating a lot of chances. But unfortunately, also, Roy, both games had one thing in common: offensive loss. Yes, that's right. And offensive zone penalties, which both games also had Carter Verhaeghe falling behind in the play and then just going to the box and then multiple times resulting actually in the opposition scoring a power play goal. So that's the frustrating thing about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them,
yeah.
actually.
Carter Verhaeghe sooner or later is going to get out of his slump. But yeah, I mean, we've seen too many offensive zone penalties from Carter Verhaeghe himself, let alone the rest of the team. I don't understand what's going on with him. The last time we saw him do anything, I shouldn't say it like that, but the last time we saw a positive play from him was when Paul Maurice put him down the third line and he ended up scoring. So that may have to happen again. Unfortunately for the Panthers right now, they just don't have the manpower for sending Verhaeghe down to a third line So he's going to have to skate and shoot his way out of this one because it's not looking good. But we saw today with the Panthers' fourth line, they were trying to create energy for the club, especially after Mackie Samoskevich got hit by Ben Sherratt. So yeah, they really tried, and they got a goal out of it late in the game, but they end up losing by 1 in Detroit. So let's see what happens this week as we wrap up the season coming up.
Yeah, and then Cam Talbot making an incredible save at the end on Anton Lundell, and then even another one on Carter Verhaeghe where he was just right there on the net front on a third chance opportunity for them. It's just another one of those things where you're just like putting your hands up and just thinking, man, what is it going to take? And I'll be truthful. I'll be truthful, Roy. I'm always taking notes throughout every single game, but I feel like for Sunday's game against Detroit, it was probably the least amount of notes that I've ever taken in a game in my 4 or 5 years of hosting this show. And I mean, you think about this, I'm counting 9 players. If you include Vitek Vanacek, who are, if this team is healthy in game 1 of the playoffs, it's a team that's going to be completely transformed. But also I was liking the start of the Panthers really in the game against Detroit because, you know, a lot of players have nothing to lose. Jesse Puljujarvi being one of them of the call-ups. He also had a great A chance where Talbot had a Aiden Hill kind of save on him towards the end of the game. But the Panthers were really starting to push. The Detroit Red Wings were starting to struggle on their breakouts. But unfortunately for the Detroit Red Wings, I spoke about their power play, on how they're power play reliant, and look what happens. A power play goal happens for them, and then the Panthers have a hard time catching up from then.
Yeah, we saw that in the previous game against Detroit.
3 of them.
The power play was a killer. But yeah, Puljujarvi, he had 6 hits and I think 5 shots on net. So, and he said after the game, I got nothing to lose. Yeah, I mean, it pretty much showed there because he had a pretty good game, and Paul Maurice liked his play, so that's good. So who knows? We might see him in the playoffs, depending on what happens. So yeah, good job by him in this game today.
Yeah, and also the thing for this is that Charlotte after today, which they won by the way, with those guys being called up, they didn't even play the night before for them. And they're also in a great position to also finish number 2 in the Atlantic Division in the AHL. And to think that you have this block where they're not going to be playing any games, the Panthers are resting guys, which that's the name of the game right now for them. And the fact that you get an opportunity to see who could possibly be a black ace, because you're gonna have to go like 22 to 25 deep possibly, knowing that the amount of miles that the Panthers do have on them with 2 Stanley Cup runs, and even going all in, even in the year before, even though there's a lot of turnover from the President's Trophy season, even then, but just the fact that you have still a good amount of buy-in from the group too. I feel like it's not a group that's consistently pulled out of position on the penalty kill as well for them, and it's always something different. It's not just the one consistent thing. Could that also be a bad thing for the Panthers if it's just different things going on? But at the same time, I feel like that still the structure is there.
Yeah, well, you look at this game today and you see just how shorthanded the Panthers are. You gotta like how they played in the first period, at least, keeping it close, keeping it in there, and trying to make a comeback. They did a pretty good job. Now, for the past month and a half, and I pointed this out on Friday, there have been a lot of stretch passes that have turned into breakaways, and that's not been the Panthers' game all the season up until about a month and a half ago. So I don't know what's going on there. I mean, could it be Aaron Ekblad out of the lineup? I don't know. But yeah, like neutral zone, the position in the neutral zone, they're allowing guys behind them, and that's not going to help. That's not going to help your goaltender there. So they're going to have to shore that up. At least play a 200-foot game.
Yeah, no doubt, and hopefully for the Panthers, they can at least get that honed in, even if they are still missing some guys out in the lineup for them with 5 games left. But speaking of 5 games left, we know what the playoff format is for the NHL, as it has been for about a decade now, with the division rivalry for them. But we're going to ask the question and answer this in segment number 2. Did the current playoff format for the NHL actually help the Panthers make this decision? We'll discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And you just realized your business needed to start hiring someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. So stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. I've been at the spot where you need the right hire. Like yesterday, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come handy. That they make sure your posts are seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now to support our show by saying you heard about this podcast on Indeed. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Segment 2 here on this Monday, April 7th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Here with Roy Bellamy, one half of the hockey show, also with David Dwork on the show, and part of the Dan LeBetard Show with Stugotz. And it's so funny. I got a little bit of a good laugh from the first intermission. Or second intermission, but Paul Bissonnette put the tinfoil hat on and was talking about asking Gary Bettman to stop it and not allowing the Panthers to fall into the wild card spot because that would result in a date with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I said it even before. I even said it before the weekend, Roy, that you're going to get one of these two teams, Toronto or Tampa, one of them. So it's you only have one of those two options, but Paul Maurice said this on March 26th, and thankfully, Jordan McPherson of the Miami Herald pulled this quote, saying, quote, "I think the math says the path that you're probably going to have to hit an Ontario team and a Florida team at some point. There's no advantage. You're not winning the Stanley Cup without beating 4 great teams. There's no weak link." Close quote. Only 2 points up on the Sens right now. Panthers on the tiebreaker, but also 2 points behind Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay has a game in hand. So not only do you have to hope for them to lose, you have to win against them and then hope for another drop point. So it feels like the Panthers are in the position of not necessarily locked in, but almost quite there. And one more back-to-back after this for the Panthers. Oh. But my question to you, Roy, is do you think that the current playoff format made the Panthers' decision easier, or do you think that they would have went this route regardless?
I don't know, because now I'm looking at the schedule, and this schedule is not exactly easy. They got Toronto, they got Detroit, Buffalo's won 4 in a row. The 7-4, I think the 7-3-1. I gotta double check on that one. They are 7-3-0 in the last 10. And that's not good. They got the Rangers, who are trying to catch Montreal, and they got Tampa left. So this is going to be a tough stretch. Yet, because of circumstances and involve injury and suspension, I don't think the Panthers had any choice but to do what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and looking if you were to do 1 through 8, even if the Panthers were to fall behind the Ottawa Senators, that would set up a date with the Carolina Hurricanes. If it were a 3 through 6, if we went through the whole 1 through 8 matchup here for
the Panthers are in 5th right now.
Yes,
unless they updated the standings. So
if they were to fall,
play Tampa. They would actually play Tampa, who's 4th. So
yes, correct. But if they were to fall behind Ottawa, then that would set up the date with the Carolina Hurricanes, is what I was trying to say there. So that's another position where the Panthers are like, okay, The choice is a lot easier for them. And here's the thing for the Panthers here that I'm noticing as far as trends of like positioning and putting them in the lineup. Marchand along with Lundell and Luostarinen, that was actually a lineup that I was even talking a forward line that I was actually talking about even before they returned, because you still don't know where where Mackie Samoskevich is placed in the lineup is so important because of the inexperience factor of him, and then just putting him with the Bennett line of how he's flourished there makes it easier for Marchand to go more up and down the lineup. And who knows if Carter Verhaeghe turns it on and goes on when he goes on that Barkov line to start the postseason. So I think that this is also a nice little period to see how they mesh together. Mikkola was back with Seth Jones, but I don't know how Paul Maurice is also going to manage the blue line, because in game one of the back-to-back, we saw Schmidt with Gustav Forsling there, but we also haven't seen Dmitry Kulikov also take a few skates neither. So we assume that it's going to be Schmidt Kulikov. So what is it? Is it going to be? I wonder if it's going to be if this is just a trial period to see what you got on tape, or if if Mikkola Jones is also going to be a thing for the rest of the regular season. Oh, you froze there, bud.
I'm right here. Yeah, everyone. This thing's freezing on both of us, apparently. But yeah, I mean, have you really seen a team put their lines in a blender before the game, before any game? Because usually you see it in game, but now we're seeing these lines being put in a blender before the game. But yeah, I think Mackie Samoskevich, the way Carter Verhaeghe has been playing lately, maybe Mackie would end up on the first line. Maybe Carter would be on the third line until Carter gets his act together. But yeah, I mean, we are assuming that once the playoffs start, it's going to be Tkachuk, Bennett, and Marchand. That's the assumption.
Yeah.
And if anything goes wrong, somebody get flipped during an end game. That's what's going to end up happening. So yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have once everybody gets back healthy. And you don't really have to worry about your fourth line. I mean, you could interchange that any way you want, just like last season. So yeah, I think Paul Maurice is trying things out, experimenting, is being Frankenstein with the lineups right now. So yeah, good on him. Hopefully he finds what he needs, and we go into the playoffs with some sort of strategy in hand on who we end up I say we as if I want to, who they will end up placing in the lineup.
Yeah, it's so funny because you think about even on the loss against Ottawa, the New York Rangers lost in regulation against the New Jersey Devils on the road, and then just hours later, the Maple Leafs defeat the Blue Jackets, and then it's like, officially clinched their playoffs. And after a full week of trying to discuss scenarios, the way the Panthers clinch is because another team loses. But then just thinking about the state of the team, where it's at right now, and then just the big limp that they're going through, it's like it's usually at a time of yay, they make it six straight years in a row if you include the bubble playoffs for them. But man, it feels a little different this time around for at least the navigating the end of the regular season for them. And just I didn't feel as joyous this time around whenever I saw them clinch. How did you feel?
They backdoored their way into the playoffs, but they, it was inevitable that they would make the playoffs anyway. So I'm not really worried about it. Hey, 6 in a row. Now, I've been a fan of this team for 31 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've covered this team for a long time now. This is my 19th year in media now. So, and 6 straight playoff appearances, and yes, I am including the bubble. Damn it! That's considering that they made the playoffs 9 times before that in 25 years. That's one thing that we really haven't seen with this club until Vinny Viola took over ownership and they hired Bill Zito. Even with the head coaching, because of circumstances that the Panthers had to deal with, up until they hired Paul Maurice 3 years ago, we haven't seen consistency. And Now they are a consistent winner. Now they are consistently making the playoffs, and that's something that I'm not used to. I'm still not used to it 6 years later, and I'm happy and joyous that I get to witness this because if you remember the Mike Keenan years, if you remember the blueprint, if you remember Pavel Bure wearing a monk outfit, banging on a bell for a promo, this is a long time coming to feel, hey, these guys are winners, and they may have a long run in the Stanley Cup playoffs for a long time to come. Granted that they do have miles on those tires, and hopefully those tires don't get bald. But yeah, I'm still not used to it. I'm very happy seeing it.
Yeah, the standard has definitely changed. When you think of, I think of other things on the top of my head, like Stacy in Space, the Vokun, whenever he would make a save. so as that song came on for him. So it's a different era that we are experiencing here for the Panthers.
Space, Jesus.
Yeah. So in the third and final segment, we are going to discuss Alexander Ovechkin breaking the goal record for the NHL as he hit 895. We are going to once again tell the story about how he quote unquote could have been a Panther, and also discuss his history against the Panthers. We are going to discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you the full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONAHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONAHL for half off of your first year. Segment 3 here on this Monday, April 7th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Here with Roy Bellamy, one half of the hockey show and part of the Dan LeBetard Show with Stugotz of Meadowlark Media. So, Roy, the Alexander Ovechkin broke the goal scoring record, 895 today against the New York Islanders in the second period, off the power play, off a wrister that went to the far side, and then the dive, the celebration, the jubilation that happened in UBS Arena, the tickets going for $1,200 for it. Wow, I hadn't had this much fun watching a record chase since 2004, when Barry Bonds broke Hank Aaron's home run record when he got 765 at the time there. But Roy, 74 games for Alexander Ovechkin, 45 goals, 47 assists, 9 game-winning goals, 3 hat tricks. But also, it's crazy to think that the weird connection with Alexander Ovechkin and the Florida Panthers, where Rick Dudley tried drafting him 4 different times, trying to use the leap years in 2004 as for trying to get him, and then trying to get him in like the 6th, 7th round there, and then the pick for the Panthers ending up being Tanner Glass for them. So just going back, because that wasn't the time where I was watching the Florida Panthers, but just when it comes to the history of then that you experienced and then the story to now and just breaking this record, what's your reaction when you see all of this?
I'm just happy that I didn't do it against Florida, and he had a chance he legitimately had a chance this season. But I look at his career, and he killed the Panthers. Like if I'm trying to find the amount of goals they scored against Florida, and it's a lot. But 45 goals. Like that's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, Rick Dudley, who's still on the team, by the way.
Yep.
Ever the shrewd the shrewd general manager trying to get him on the team. But I mean, the Panthers really in that era was not exactly helped by the NHL lottery. So and Pittsburgh was, and that's how they also lost out on Sidney Crosby. So yeah, they lost out on 2 generational hockey players because that's just how things went for this team. I mean, karma wasn't exactly going on their side in that era, but yeah, I mean, seeing Alexander Ovechkin, who, by the way, I'm older than him. I don't think he can tell, but I am kind of older than he is. But seeing him after all these years, and I'm talking like 20 years. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, the Panthers didn't do themselves any favors. The 2 previous drafts, trading back from number 1 overall as well in the Rick Nash and Marc-Andre Fleury drafts. But it's crazy the different milestones that Ovi had again for him. 500, his 500th assist in 2018 came against the Panthers, and then his very first game against the Panthers, he scored on October 20th, 2005. There were so many different games where the games were tight, and then Alexander Ovechkin was the difference. In April of 07, only 1 goal was scored in a game between the Panthers and the Caps, and it was Alexander Ovechkin who scored on Craig Anderson. There was also a tied game going into the third on December 1st, 2007. Ovi answered the Panthers score, and then Alexander Ovechkin answers back, like not even 3 minutes later. 2009 February, first hat trick for him, and then getting an empty net to cap it off. Another hat trick against Jacob Markstrom, and then a score with 5 minutes left in 2014. But here's the craziest hat trick that he had, Roy. I don't know. And this was pretty recent, 4 years ago. November 26th. It was a strange one because he scored on Sergei Bobrovsky. Bob gets pulled for concussion protocol. Spencer Knight comes in to the game. Bob apparently gets cleared, comes back, and then Alexander Ovechkin scores on him. So his hat trick was on 2 different goalies, one coming in, one getting subbed in, and then that same starter came back in. But also that same game, Washington also used 2 goalies in that as well. So that was the strangest of hat tricks for Alexander Ovechkin of his 3 against the Panthers.
Yeah, surprised there wasn't an e-bug in that situation. But he's been a Panthers killer, and it's just about over. So we won't have to worry about him for the rest of our lives as soon as his career is over, which is getting pretty close.
Yeah, and to think that in 2016 that he said that the goal scoring record is not going to be broken, and then to think that Wayne Gretzky held it for 31 years, and to think that the amount of games that he did it in was exactly the same amount of Wayne Gretzky, just literally one-upping him for that goal scoring record, but also doing it against the 894 for Gretzky was against the Islanders, 895 for Alexander Ovechkin against the Islanders. And then to think not just the Florida game, the goals against the Panthers, but the one highlight goal that people talk about, even guys like Austin Matthews talk about, was the one goal in Phoenix when they were called the Phoenix Coyotes, where he's falling over and then he gets the stick back and then it goes into the net. Crazy highlight things like that, and just a one who's going to go down in the books for history. And just the ceremony, even in the game before, tapping on the glass to make sure that he goes for his son. And I'm sure that you can relate to that as a father, Roy, for your daughter, and just having your family there and how important it is to someone for a record like this. And then just the traveling for Gretzky and Gary Bettman, the whole tour going on.
Yeah, sooner or later, hopefully I can get Claire to play hockey and feel the same way as a father watching my daughter play hockey. Yeah, I mean that. Boy, I'm just happy. I should say I am happy because he's out of the division now. I'm happy that he got his cup, and I'm gonna be even happier when the NHL doesn't force feed the Ovechkin Crosby rivalry down our throats anymore.
Yeah, no doubt. And hey, sometimes whenever a matchup like that happens, like whether it's the last few years with the Washington Capitals in 2022 or the Carolina Hurricanes in 2023, I always said, long live the Southeast Division. And even that one strange year where the Winnipeg Jets happened to be in the same division as the Panthers. So kind of miss it sometimes. But hey, one down year for the Capitals in 2016 did help the Panthers in 2012, helped them win the division for them. So that definitely was was helpful for the Panthers, even though they were minus 24 goal differential that year for the Panthers. So in a year where they were supposed to rebuild.
Yeah.
But Roy, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you online, and then of course your work for your media work.
I am at Roy Bellamy, and that's RoyBelly on pretty much any social media that you have. And the hockey show is on YouTube. You can go to the LeBetard and Friends YouTube page and click on playlists and find our folder. That's the hockey show there. You can watch a segment of our show on DraftKings Network every Friday, and you can listen to us anywhere you find your podcast. That's me and David Dwork as the hosts. We got Rose and Ethan in the shipping container as our producers, and we are very happy doing our show, and we're gonna do one again this Friday.
Awesome. And yeah, if you mess with Roy online, he'll roast your mama. So be careful what you say to him.
Yeah, please.
But Roy, thank you so much, and not only and see you soon, not only online, but see you very soon in person as well. So thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Roy Bellamy, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.